So the ammunition you're going to want to carry in bear country or in the wilderness is some kind of hard cast bullet or solid, generally speaking. And here we have a hard cast bullet. So hard cast is just a lead bullet that has some other metals added to it to make it harder than pure lead. So they add zinc and antimony, and that makes this bullet hard, almost as hard as copper. So it doesn't expand. It's not designed to expand. It's designed to plow through. You see that flat nose? That flat nose assures straight line penetration, okay? That's what you want. You don't want the bullet to veer off course and miss the vitals or whatever area you're targeting. Okay, you want that bullet to go like a laser, okay? And so this is a hard cast bullet. You want hard cast bullets. You don't want jacketed bullets. You don't want soft points. You want some kind of solid, non-expanding bullet. Okay, you want a bullet that does not expand, whether it's made of hard cast lead or whether it's made of some kind of copper or brass or whatever it is. You don't want any expanding bullet. Now, in some cases, an expanding bullet might be okay if you have like a bonded bullet, like a Woodley weld core. That might be okay because it doesn't expand a whole lot and it still penetrates a lot. You have to do your own ballistics testing to find out which ammunition is the best. Okay, I've done an extensive amount of ballistics testing with these handguns I just showed you and these cartridges, and they're in my playlist section. So you need to do chronographing, you need to do ballistics testing, because a lot of manufacturers will advertise a certain amount of energy or a certain amount of velocity or a certain amount of expansion, and it may not occur. So you have to verify what the company is saying. You can't just trust what they're saying because your life is depending on it, okay? You have to actually go out there, go to the range, test your ammo, find out which one shoots the best, find out which one is the most reliable, find out which one has the best penetration, find out which one has the worst penetration, test different brands, measure the velocity, check the recoil. You have to do a lot of testing, okay? You can't just go to the store or buy the first thing you see and say, okay, I'm good to go. No, you have to practice, you have to test, extensive testing before you find out which ammo is the best. And if you're a hand loader, obviously you're going to be testing anyway, but these are the rounds that I carry. So for my 44 Magnum, I have found that the Underwood ammo penetrates better than the Buffalo Bore. But generally speaking, Buffalo Bore is going to be the best company to go with if we're talking about bear defense or wilderness carry ammunition. I've never had any issues with Buffalo Bore ammo. It's always consistent. It's always pretty much what they advertise, the velocity and energy and penetration. I've never had any issues with Buffalo Bore ammo, so you cannot go wrong with Buffalo Bore. So if you don't feel like going out and testing ammo and doing all that, definitely just pick up some Buffalo Bore. You can't go wrong with anything Buffalo Bore. But in certain cases, other companies will be better. Generally speaking, Underwood ammo is a good lower cost substitute for Buffalo Bore, but in certain cases, like with the 10mm and 500 Smith & Wesson, I've had bad experiences with Underwood. I've had low velocities and poor penetration, okay? But for some reason with their 44 Magnum, I actually get better penetration and better velocity than the Buffalo Bore, slightly better. I'm not talking about a huge difference, just slight. There's a lot of differences. If we're talking about hard cast bullets, there's different types of bullets. You have different companies that cast their bullets to different hardness levels, and they also have different nose shapes. Depending on the type of nose shape, that's going to affect straight line penetration depending on the alloy. If the alloy is too soft, it's going to actually deform and it's going to reduce penetration. If the alloy is too hard, it's going to become brittle and it's going to break apart if it hits a bone or some kind of hard object. So there's a sweet spot, okay, between hardness and softness. You don't want a bullet that's too hard. You don't want one that's too soft. And same thing with the nose profile. You have, generally speaking, a wide flat nose and a long flat nose. A wide flat nose is what you're looking at here. Okay, you can see how the nose is very wide and flat. A long flat nose, it's very similar to this, but the nose tapers more, and the me-plat, which is this flat part on the nose, is smaller. And so in certain cases that can increase penetration, but because the me-plat is smaller, you can get issues with straight line penetration because the bullet's going to want to change direction because you don't have that massive flat nose that, you know, ensures the bullet's going straight. Okay, so generally speaking, a wide flat nose is your best bet. You don't want to go with a long flat nose. Long flat noses tend to veer off course. You can also get monometal bullets, which are copper alloy bullets. Those can work good too. But the issue with those is you can't get as much velocity and energy because copper is lighter than lead. So for a bullet to have the same grain weight, a copper alloy bullet is going to have to be longer because it's lighter than a lead bullet. And because it's longer, there's not as much powder space in the case. So they can't load them as hot. So that's something to consider. And then you have the extreme penetrator rounds, which are very popular now. The extreme penetrators can be a good option. The only issue with them is they have a tendency of not maintaining a straight line because they don't have that flat nose profile. So I wouldn't recommend an extreme penetrator as bear defense ammunition. I recommend a wide flat nose hard cast lead or a wide flat nose monometal bullet, some kind of copper alloy. And as far as energy levels go, with a full-size 10mm handgun, you're going to get almost as much energy as a .44 Magnum, almost as much penetration. You're going to get about 60 to 75% the energy of a .44 Magnum, but you're going to get probably 50% the recoil. So that's something to consider. The .44 Magnum has proven itself to work against bears, and it's kind of the middle ground between the 10mm and the 500 Smith & Wesson. I think a .44 Magnum is comfortable to shoot if you have at least a 4-inch barrel. With a snub nose revolver, I don't recommend to new shooters or people that are sensitive to recoil. If you're going to get a .44 Magnum and you're sensitive to recoil, get at least a 4-inch barrel, preferably a 5-inch barrel. Now with the snub nose, it's going to be easier to carry, but you're going to lose a lot of energy. So that's something to consider. Same thing with a 500 Smith & Wesson. Any of those snub nose revolvers like the 4-inch barrel 500 Smith & Wesson, you're going to lose a ton of energy with that 4-inch barrel. You're better off just getting a 6 or 8-inch barrel. It's a little bit longer, but you're going to get a lot more energy. Okay, so that's definitely something to consider with the super magnums. If you're going to go to the route of a 500 Smith & Wesson or something in that power range, like a 454 Casull, anything more powerful than a .44 Magnum or .357 Magnum, I call a super magnum. So that would be like a 454 Casull, a 460 Smith & Wesson, 500 Smith & Wesson. You want to go with at least a 5 or 6-inch barrel. And in my opinion, you don't want to go over like a 7 or 8-inch barrel because it's not going to be comfortable to carry. I think the sweet spot is between 5 and 7 inches with a revolver. And I think with a semi-auto, the sweet spot is around 5 inches. And with a 5-inch barrel 10mm, you're going to get around 700 foot-pounds of energy, which puts that 10mm up to the .357 Magnum level and can basically do 75% of what a .44 Magnum can do, but with a lot less recoil, okay? So you're going to get around 1,000 foot-pounds of energy with a .44 Magnum. You're going to get between 2,000 and 3,000 foot-pounds of energy with a 500 Smith & Wesson. And with a 10mm, you're going to get around 600 to 750 foot-pounds of energy. So finally, I want to talk to you about holsters. Holsters are extremely overlooked, and they're a very important part of any kind of personal defense. You want to have a holster that allows you to access your firearm quickly, and it also has to be comfortable to carry all day long. For wilderness carry, I prefer a chest holster, and right now I really like the Kenai chest holster from Gunfighters Inc. It's a very high quality Kydex chest holster, and what's nice about the Kydex holsters is that you don't have any snap or anything that you have to remove. You can just draw the firearm out. So if a bear is charging you, it's just one less thing to think about, okay? All you do is just draw that firearm. You don't have to remember to unsnap anything or anything like that. And this just sits on your chest. It has this harness. And what I like about the Kenai, it's very comfortable to carry with a backpack. You don't have any buckles that are on your back. Everything is stitched. So when you put a backpack on, you don't have anything that's digging into your back. And then here I have one for the Glock 20. They even make one that will fit your light. Very easy to use. And you can also attach some bungee cord if you want extra retention. Just get some bungee cord and just tie a knot through one of the holes here, and then you can run that bungee cord behind the hammer, and that'll add some extra retention if you're going to be doing a lot of running or maybe climbing where, you know, maybe this pistol could loosen itself and fall out, but that's very unlikely. So this is my recommendation for a holster for your wilderness carry is the Kenai from Gunfighters Inc. Highly recommend it. And you want to have a chest holster, like I said, because you want to be able to access your firearm from any angle, whether you're sitting down, whether you're taking a crap, you know, whether you're building a fire, whether you're setting up a tent, whether you're gutting a deer, whatever it is. That chest holster can stay on you 24/7. You can even sleep with it, okay? You don't have to have a belt in order to carry your firearm, okay? It just has a buckle, and this buckle just goes around your midsection. It goes around your back. So you can literally sleep with it in your tent, on your chest, loaded if you want, okay? That's a huge advantage, in my opinion, with these holsters, okay? And in my opinion, mandatory for bear defense or wilderness carry. Also, if you're going to be carrying a backpack, these chest holsters are very comfortable with a backpack because the waist belt is not going to get in the way and the backpack straps are not going to get in the way of anything, versus if you have like a hip holster. When you put a waist belt on, that waist belt might get in the way of your hip holster, and also with hip holsters, it might not be easy to access your firearm from different angles. And again, you're going to need your pants on. You're going to have your pants on in order to have your hip holster on. So if you're sleeping, unless you sleep with your pants on, or, you know, if you're, whatever you're doing, you know, you have to have a belt to be able to carry that firearm, okay? Versus a chest holster, you don't need to. You can literally be naked and have your firearm on your person, okay? So we have some other companies that make holsters. Here we have a universal chest holster from Elite Survival. And what I like about this is that it's a universal holster. And it also has a pouch here for a spare magazine included. So I think that's great. But this is good if you don't feel like spending the money for a custom chest holster, or you have a pistol that you can't find a chest holster for, like my Rock Island 1911. It's hard for me to find a chest holster for it. It's a very specialized pistol. It's not common. There's no molds for it out there. So a lot of Kydex makers don't have a mold for it. So you would have to ship your firearm in. In that case, you're better off just getting something like this. It'll work fine. And Elite Survival Systems is a great company. I've never had any issues with them. We also have the Viking Tactics VTAC chest holster. Okay, this is for a big bore revolver. I can fit my 500 Smith & Wesson in here. The only downside to this one is it's got this buckle here, and undoing a buckle is not as easy as a snap. So that's the only downside. But something like this or the Elite Survival Systems chest holster are fine. These are fine. Okay, they're universal, so they're made to fit multiple firearms. If you don't want to spend the money to have separate holsters for each firearm, you can just get one or two universal holsters, and you can use all your firearms with these holsters. And then finally, we have some hip holsters here. Here I have a universal hip holster. This is also a Molly holster. And then here I have a leather hip holster made by A.E. Nelson. This is an excellent hip holster for my .44 Magnum. Absolutely love it. I've used it for years. As you can see, the leather's kind of beat up a little bit. I've carried my .44 Magnum with this thing for many, many years, and it's very comfortable. So that's another option, is a hip holster. If you're just planning a quick hike, you know, you're not going to be backpacking, a hip holster's fine. But if I'm going to be out there for a while and I'm going to be backpacking, I definitely want to have a chest holster. So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I'm going to attach links to some of the penetration tests and velocity tests that I've done with the bear loads for all these handguns. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and stay tuned for my long guns for bear defense video, and that should be coming very soon. So take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.